Hi friends, my name is Ruchi, and in today's video we'll talk about the diagnosis of limb girdle muscular dystrophy. I have limb girdle muscular dystrophy type 2A myself, and that's why I can talk from my experience. I was diagnosed in my 30s and right now I'm in my 40s. So I'm going to share some of my experiences as well in this video. We will be covering 4 things mainly in this video. The first thing that we'll cover is what is limb girdle muscular dystrophy? What are the symptoms of this dystrophy? The third thing that we'll cover is what are the tests or what are the genetic tests that need to be done in order to medically diagnose this dystrophy. And the fourth thing is I'll share how my mental state was during the diagnosis and how probably you can make it a bit better for yourself. So let's get started. So the first thing is, what is limb girdle muscular dystrophy? So broadly speaking, this is a genetic disorder where your muscles start to become weak. It generally starts with leg muscles. And then you also see the problems, or you also see the issue in your arms. And then eventually in a few years, it spreads to the muscles of your entire body. Depending on how much do you care for yourself, this disorder is progressive. So that is broadly limb girdle muscular dystrophy, and there are many subtypes also for it. Now let's talk about the symptoms that I had. So even before the diagnosis, I started having some symptoms in my late 20s. I was already married at that point. I had my kid also at that point. I was facing a lot of fatigue. I was sleeping for longer hours. It was getting difficult for me to, hold something in my hand and go up the stairs. I would search for maybe some support while climbing a stair. If in case I lost my balance and if I fell down, it was very difficult for me to get up from the floor. And if I'm sitting down on the floor, getting up from the floor was again getting very, very difficult for me. So those were the initial symptoms I had. And somebody in my family already was diagnosed with this disorder. So that's why I knew that something can be wrong with me. So let's now talk about the diagnosis of limb girdle muscular dystrophy. Now, because I already knew that there's a possibility that I have this disorder, so I directly went to a neurologist. Suppose if you don't know whether this is a muscular problem or this is a problem with your bones, so in that case, you might want to go to an orthopedic doctor or to a neurologist, because this dystrophy falls under the umbrella of neuromuscular diseases. So when you go to the specialist, they will understand, they will do few physical exams, like, they will make you lie down and they will ask you to raise your legs, they will ask you to raise your arms, they will ask you to raise your body while lying down, and they will probably ask you to sit down on the floor and get up. Those are the things they will ask you to do, and then dependent on that and their assessment, they will also probably let you know some other tests that you can get done. So mainly there's a genetic testing done, the DNA testing as we call it, which can exactly diagnose what is the type of disorder, what is the subtype of disorder. Everything can be tested with the genetic testing. But that can be a little expensive also, depending on, how precise your doctor can get. The other type of test which can be done for limb girdle muscular dystrophy, which the doctors generally talk about, is CPK test, which is a simple blood test. So it kind of measures an enzyme in your body which gets produced when there's wear and tear of your muscles. And generally the doctors say that higher the CPK, that means higher the probability of your muscles being wasted. For me personally, when I got the CPK blood test done for the first time, my range of CPK was in 4,000, although the normal range is supposed to be 0 to 150. So I was pretty scared, but now it's been quite a few years and I've learned that there's not a direct correlation between CPK and your physical state. People have told me, people who have limb girdle muscular dystrophy of different types, they've told me different stories about this CPK. So, this is not a very definitive test according to my understanding. A genetic test is the best test, where they take your blood sample, or they can do a biopsy. Biopsy is where they take a very small tiny piece of your muscle and then it goes through a panel of tests and then they find out exactly what's the medical condition. So that's about the tests. Now let's talk about how was my mental state during the diagnosis. So I was diagnosed in Sri Gangaram Medical Institute, which is in Delhi. They have a world-class genetic testing center over there and great doctors. I went for a simple blood test because I already had some reference of this disorder in my family. So I took the detailed report to them and I asked them whether, how can we check? So they asked me to go through a blood test, and then a week later I got the report. So the doctor called me in. She made me sit down. She shared this report with me that you have this disorder. And she explained me what this disorder means. That means my muscles will keep on getting weaker and weaker. And eventually in 10 to 15 years, I will start requiring maybe a wheelchair or a walking stick, and I will become a little dependent on the people around me. I was already going through a lot of symptoms at that point, and it was like I was there. I was hearing her, but I could not listen to her talk about everything. It was very difficult for me. That day, even if I recollect that day, it was very difficult for me. I could not register what she was saying, because from a normal person, who would walk easily, who can run, who can dance, who can do everything, right? I mean, from that kind of a physical state to a physical state where you will be sitting on a wheelchair, somebody will have to help you go to the washroom, somebody will have to, pick up things from you from the ground floor. If you fall down, then somebody will have to help you get up. I mean, just seeing that kind of a future, or just imagining that kind of a future, was like, it was like a ton of bricks fell upon me at that instant. I was with my husband and my son at that point, where the doctor was sharing this news with me, and I didn't know how to react. In fact, it kind of impacted me emotionally a lot. I went to a physiotherapist to get my muscle charting done, which would allow me to understand what's the strength of each of my muscle throughout the body. And so far, I've not been able to recollect myself and go through that process of muscle charting done again. But yes, I have learned quite a few things. I have adapted myself and my mental state. Now, I really want to share the last piece, which is like, how can you make this experience a bit better for yourself? Just from the situation that I went through, I have a few pieces of advices for you. So the first thing is that as soon as you come back from the hospital, as soon as you come back from the doctor, don't go back to the internet and start searching, or even on your phone, don't start searching what limb girdle muscular dystrophy treatments can look like. Out of my curiosity, I asked the doctor, what about those stem cell research treatments? Are they viable? Are they good? Is there any benefit in getting that done? And the doctor flatly told me that there is no point of getting those treatments done, because it's not medically proven. And if somebody is telling you that there can be a 20-30% betterment if you go through stem cell therapy, then they're fooling you, because those treatments are pretty expensive. They will inject many injections in your thigh muscle or in your muscles, and it will be totally subjective whether they help you or not. So it was like, there was just one option I could see on the internet before I went to talk to the doctor, and that was also thwarted. So, we generally get into the solutioning mode and we come back and we start looking on the internet. Unfortunately, because this is a very rare and a typical disorder, you will not find a lot of positive information around this. You will find difficult videos, you will find difficult images where children, adults, even old people are suffering through this, and they have not been able to get any success. So do not believe everything that you see on the internet, is my first advice. Because if you are able to maintain your overall health, you can actually go a long way being fairly independent. It's been many years for me, and I am still able to walk independently inside the house. I do not go outside without a walking stick, because one thing that I've realized about myself is that without a walking stick, it can be difficult and I can lose my balance. But if I am going out to the office or to any other location like a restaurant, then I use my wheelchair, and that's a motorized wheelchair. And we'll talk about the story of even getting a wheelchair sometime. But today, I want to leave you with this advice that do not believe everything. And the second most important advice is keep your loved ones close to yourself. In these times of trauma, when you get diagnosed or when you acquire a disability, that's a time when you need your loved ones the most. You need to keep them close. You need to communicate to them. You need to tell them what's happening to you and your body. You need to tell them that this is something that I'm unable to do. Fears and inhibitions that you have inside you, which you'll have to talk out, which you'll have to accept for yourself, and you'll have to tell your loved ones too. And the final golden advice that I would leave you with is things will get better. They will. Trust me on that. Today, if I'm able to talk to you, is because things have gotten better for me, and they will get better for you. You just need to have a positive mindset. And we'll talk more about this mindset in some other video. Thank you so much for listening to me. Have a great day.